This audiovisual material was produced and published by 100 Books Collection.
Chapter 1. I am the Son of God. Do you desire above all things to live a serene, useful and successful life? Do you want to get out of the petty limitations of conventionality? Out of pain, sin and sickness? Away from the petty hurts of everyday life? Do you really want to get away from them? Are you willing to work for the salvation that is in you? Or would you rather stand still and grumble against the universe in general and everyone in particular? Do you desire health and prosperity, happiness and a wider usefulness, such as to work every day and all day for them, as a man works who desires to be a great musician, artist or scholar? Or do you only faintly desire that someone should carry you bodily over flowerbeds of ease to a heaven of happiness and prosperity? Are you resolved to have health, happiness and material prosperity, and to be more widely useful no matter what it costs or how long it takes? Then you will have them. You will undoubtedly succeed. You could not fail if you tried. And I am with you all the way, and at the same time, I am already there, and I will tell you something that was an immense help to me in getting there. It was the sun. Shelton says the sun is God. I wouldn't be surprised if he's right, but I'm not sure he is. However, the sun helped me realize myself, my wise, loving, powerful, serenely happy self. Your self is as big as mine, and you are sure to find it when you get down to it. The reason you haven't found it yet is that you have spent most of your time observing other people's selves. You have been discourteous to yourself. You have consulted every Tom, Dick and Harry before you have consulted yourself. And you have called yourself all sorts of names. No wonder you have gone into your shell and pulled the hole behind you. No wonder you think it doesn't know much. But he does know, and he'll do anything for you if you're halfway polite to him. Be polite and respectful to yourself. Tell him that, after all, he's a nice guy, the best friend you have. Ask him for advice and use it, and let him do things for you. All he wants is recognition, and he'll do whatever you want him to do, and he'll do it better than anyone else can do it for you. The sun helped me get to know myself closely. It will help you too. Have you ever thought how much the sun and the sun are alike? Jesus was the Son of God. I studied the life of that Son for years, trying to be like him. My success was indifferent, but one day suddenly it came to me that I am the Son of God. That was for me a glorious idea that took possession of me and literally transformed me by the renewing of my mind. That's a little trick that ideas have. Give them a lodging and they will make you a whole new house, a house not made with hands. I am the Son of God completely transformed me in a short time. I will tell you some of the changes it made in me. I used to be very sensitive, so much so that more than half the time I didn't know what I was thinking, and I always got my feelings hurt, although I was usually too proud to show it. I tried desperately to master my feelings and keep them from hurting me, but success did not crown my efforts or even rest on my banner. At last I tired of coddling my feelings and told them, with great indignation, to go on feeling hurt until they got tired and quit. They would get no more attention from me. They got tired and quit. The sun warmed my feelings and cheered them up forever. This is the way. I said to myself, if I am the Son of Good, then my only reason for being is simply to radiate, to shine, to send out good thoughts. Now you see, that's just where I had been making a vital mistake. I had always been trying to be a moon instead of a sun. The moon is cold, dark, sterile, receptive, only emitting reflected light. She had been all the time receiving everything, the ideas and opinions of others, and even all kinds of wounds on her part. And, as if this were not reception enough, I was daily begging God to give me the Holy Spirit, not to mention the 101 other favors I was begging, to Him and to other people. And all this time, I was truly a son, God's son, made for the sole purpose of sending rather than receiving. I had life in myself, as the Father has life in Himself. To completely overcome all that sensitivity, I simply had to remember, when my feelings were hurt, that I am a sun made to shine, rather than a moon made to receive wounds from the outside. Every human being is literally a son of good, made to radiate. If he attends strictly to the matter of sending out goodwill, as the sun radiates rays, he will soon find his feelings under his control. Suppose that every time anyone on this planet grumbled at the old sun, he would curl up into himself and stop sending out his rays. If he were sensitive like most people, that's what he would do. But Sol is too wise a god for that. He is strictly about his own business of shining. So positively does he shine, and so fully is he absorbed in doing his best, that he shines not only upon the righteous who appreciate his brightness, but he shines cheerfully upon the unrighteous, who only grumble in return. So positive is he that he blesses the old sun, who never feels a grumble. Its brightness simply meets the grumble and transmutes it before it touches it. The reason we are hurt by the unkind words of those around us is that we forget to shine. The inner sun. There is a real solar center in us, the solar plexus, or sun. This is a large nerve center located at the back of the stomach. When this central sun, from which all the nerves of the body radiate, is in its normal state, it constantly radiates real energy, just as the sun does. This energy vibrates through the nerve highways and pathways of the body to the surface of the body in all directions, the surface of the mucous membranes as well as the outer skin, and is thrown into a real halo or atmosphere which always envelops the body. If this radiation from the solar plexus is sufficiently positive, the influence of another person cannot in the least disturb its constant and harmonious vibrations, and a person who is thus positively radiant exerts immense power for the good of those who are less positive than himself. His very presence, without a spoken word or even a thought, definitely directed here the disturbed minds with whom he comes in contact. In all human beings who have not yet learned the law of being, the solar plexus is in a narrow condition which prevents the steady flow of life, or nervous ether, to all parts of the body. From this cause comes every disease of the human race, mental, physical, or environmental. All feelings are due to the action or inaction of this solar center. Good feelings are due to free action. Bad feelings are due to contraction. Pleasant feelings are caused by the flow of nervous ether, energy, life. Unpleasant feelings by an interruption of the constant flow. In every human being there is a constant radiation of life, or love, or goodwill from the solar plexus, except when the individual himself interrupts the radiation by contracting the solar plexus, thus diminishing the output or interrupting it altogether, as in death. A continued contraction of the nerves produces a chronic state of nervous collapse. The nerves literally collapse like a soft tube from which fluid is drawn. The nerves are tubes for the transport of life to all parts of the body. Contract the solar plexus and you will withdraw life from the body. The solar plexus is the point where life is born, where the uncreated becomes created, the disorganized becomes organized, the unconscious becomes conscious, the invisible appears, the dimensionless becomes measurable. There is no limit to the amount of life that this solar center of the individual is capable of generating, nor to the rapidity with which it can be generated. But this omnipotent solar center is a blind energy generator, all-powerful, but not intelligent in any high sense. The solar plexus is a servant of the brain. No more life is generated, i.e. made visible, than is dictated by the brain of God on high. Every minute contraction and expansion of the solar center of life obeys the brain. No slightest whim of the brain, but is instantly responded to by the solar plexus. Do you perceive why and how it is that every idle word shall ye give account? And how shall ye be rewarded according to the works done in the flesh? What you sow in the imagination you will surely reap in the body. What you have sown in thought you are now reaping. Conscious thought owns the sun center from which the life of your body flows, and the quality of your body, including the brain, determines the quality of your environment. You are your own lord and master, the arbiter of your own destiny. Do you see now why a sensitive person is continually wounded? He thinks he is a moon instead of a sun. He receives from others words or tones or acts which displease him. He contracts the sun center of himself, arresting his radiation of goodwill. It is the stopping of his own radiations of life or goodwill that hurts him, not the thing that was said or done, and he alone is the lord of that sun radiator, therefore he wounds himself. I made this discovery by actual experience and have demonstrated the fact that no one on earth has the power to hurt my feelings. By studying the action of the true sun and remembering that I am the Son of God, I quickly learned the art and acquired the habit of shining. What I do, you can do also. Chapter 2. The Lord our God is a consuming fire. Have you ever noticed that the sun makes no special effort to destroy that which is of no use for living? The same constant radiance that gives life to the growing plant causes fermentation, death, and transmutation to all that is separated from the source of its life. As soon as I learned that I am the Son of God, I knew that I did not need to make any special effort to destroy the evil, the carnal mind. I saw that I simply had to shine like the old sun, and the radiation from me would transmute the mind and the body and the environment for me. That conception gave me infinite relief. I saw that all the good I had been striving so assiduously to force into me was already mine, if I would only let my light shine to mature it. I also discovered that letting my light shine is a matter of choice, not feeling, so I chose to let the light shine from my solar center and abandoned myself to that radiation. I no longer worried about bad thoughts or acts. I simply let the sun shine on them. I discovered that Jesus of Nazareth had a cool head. I tell you not to resist evil is the height of wisdom. I had often and long pondered that command of his, without being able to see his philosophy, and I simply could not obey it. Why? Because I am good and must, by the compulsion of my own law of being, always be against evil. If I know no better way to rid myself of evil than to fight against it, then I must fight. But the more I fight, the more evil will grow. At last, in utter despair, I can stand still and think, when I see that non-resistance will win, where resistance is worse than failure. Do you see why this is so? The solar plexus is the radiating center of life, the center from which flows the divine energy, love, which can make it overcome all evil. We can overcome evil with good. We can love our enemies to turn them into friends. We can overcome them, that is, make them pass. Please remember that love is not a sentimental outburst. It is not a matter of words, but it is a constant radiation of goodwill from the solar center, and it may or may not be expressed in word or deed, but it will be expressed in word or deed, as the need of the enemy demands. But whether it is expressed or not, that constant and silent radiation of goodwill or love will transmute enemies into friends, evil into good, as surely as the rays of the sun will make pure that which was impure. This being true, all that is necessary is to let the solar center radiate goodwill all the time. Until we understand and take control of ourselves, every thought that passes through the mind affects the action of the solar plexus. Thoughts that are pleasant to us cause the center to open and radiate goodwill or love. Every unpleasant thought causes it to contract, thus shutting off the supply of goodwill, love, life from the body, brain, and environment. Non-resistant thought expands the solar plexus. Resistant thought contracts it. Do you see now what a good scientist Jesus was? And I say unto you, resist not evil. If a man wants you to go 1 mile with him, go 2 miles willingly. Let him radiate your goodwill. And by the time you have finished your 2nd mile, his solar plexus will be vibrating with yours, and you will both be wiser and more loving for your journey. But that will depend on how you take their invitation or their command. You can go under protest, asserting your own righteousness and his unrighteousness, in which case he will conquer you, and you will have obeyed the letter but not the spirit of Jesus' command. Or you can wrap yourself in an air of martyrdom, which, by the way, is a very thin covering, and go with him, because it is your duty to do a lot of unpleasant things you would rather not do. This is the air that many women take on with their husbands and children, the wounded air. They go 1 mile, oh yes, 2 miles or 3, with eyebrows raised and lips pursed with prunes and prisms, and a noisy humility of manner. All this makes the thoughtless husband or children take their time for a time. They feel that they have committed the unpardonable sin and hasten to humble themselves and make amends. But in time they harden, and the latter state is worse than the former. It is not so much what is done as how it is done. I said that before we understand and take control of ourselves, every thought that passes through the mind expands or contracts the solar center of being. We must learn to control the action of the solar plexus in the same way that we learn to control the action of the fingers in learning to play the piano, by thought and careful exercise. Anyone can play the piano if they want to, and anyone can learn self-control if they really want to. And when he really wants to, he will. Until then, it is best to leave him alone. As long as a man would rather let his solar plexus float around like a weather vane on a blustery day, registering all the foolish, thoughtless, or spiteful things his neighbor may say, why not let it float around? Eventually, he will tire of such jiggling and begin to control himself and his feelings. No one can do it for him. Practice makes perfect. He who devotes more time to practice with faith will accomplish more in less time. The man who devotes an hour a day to practicing concentration exercises and then lives the rest of his time on the old plane of resentment and resistance will not make half as much progress as the man who devotes little or no time to the exercises, but strives to put his goodwill into every act and thought of the day, every day of the week. Every experience, small or great, is an exercise in developing concentration. You no more need special hours for development than a cat needs 2 tails. Put your mind and goodwill into what you are doing, and put it back in every time you catch it flying down the runway. Make up your mind to keep your light shining, your solar center expanded, no matter what happens or how you feel. Of course, you can't do it the first time, just as you can't play the piano by simply deciding to do it. Your hands will get out of position, and your fingers will persist in being thumbs. But nevertheless, if your mind is determined, you will keep at it until you teach your hands to hold their correct positions and your fingers to play the keys gently and truthfully with hardly a conscious thought. The same is true of the solar plexus. With practice, you can teach your solar center to radiate goodwill, no matter what is going on outside of you or within, or how much your thought may be occupied with other things. That is heaven, where I am. And the door is wide open, with welcome written above. Let your light shine that men may see your good works. Let your sun love shine, and glorify your God I am, who is heaven. Chapter 3. Why and How. The solar plexus or solar center is to the human body precisely what the visible sun is to the solar system. It is the source of all life and light. It is the manufacturer of life and light. The sun manufactures light and heat by inhaling that which transcends light and heat. The sun breathes. It inhales spirit and exhales light and heat, intelligent will. The solar plexus inhales light and heat and exhales magnetism, another form of intelligent will, a finer form, a will more intelligent and therefore more powerful as well as finer. If the sun were to cease to breathe, the solar plexus would have nothing to breathe. Life would cease to manifest. If the sun were to breathe spasmodically, filling itself only half full of spirit, then there would be a poverty of light and heat. The effect of such a poverty of light and heat can be seen in plants or in people locked in dungeons. We are accustomed to believe that man breathes only with his lungs, when the truth is that he breathes with every cell of his body, and every pore of his body, inside and out, is a pathway for the transmission of sunlight and heat to the great laboratory of the body, the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the respiratory center of the body, where sunlight and heat are transmuted into magnetism. All disorders of the human body and brain are due to the shutting off of the sun's rays before they can reach the solar plexus. One who breathes deeply and regularly cannot be sick or mentally weak. Only one thing prevents the breath from reaching the solar center, a closing of the pores outward and inward. A stooped position will cramp and close many of the lung pores. Tight clothing will close not only the lung pores, but others as well. But first and last and always, and with more power than is contained in all other things combined, the mind will constrict the pores and rob the body and brain of life and light. Fear is the great thief. Watch the effect of a single fear upon yourself. See how you shrink, wrinkle, and contract. See how you clench your hands and curl your toes. See how you expel the air from your lungs and keep it expelled. And you may guess, at least, how fear keeps you out of yourself. This cowering and hunching is a habit of the human race. Human beings are trained to fear the past, the present, and the future, themselves and their enemies, not to mention their friends, trained to fear what is without and what is within, to fear the devil as well as God. Is it any wonder that fear is a habit, and a good and full breath something unheard of for most human beings? The only problem of the human race is to get rid of the fears so assiduously cultivated for so many centuries. There is no need to tell the intrepid to breathe freely. He does so without thinking about the effort. As a consequence, his body is large and strong. Every effort of the individual is for the sole purpose of freeing him to breathe, to inhale intelligent will, to retain it until he has rejuvenated every cell and tinged himself with the essence of his being, and to exhale it as still more intelligent will for the realization of his purposes. Man breathes intelligent will, concentrates it within himself and radiates it in a new and more powerful form. He who breathes rightly appropriates the intelligence and will of the sun. The freer his breathing, the greater the degree of intelligent will. He who breathes freely acts freely. He who breathes deeply thinks deeply. Only fear prevents free thought. Only restricted thinking prevents free breathing. Get rid of fear, and you will not need to be taught to breathe freely. Thought and action are one. All thought is action, but we are not yet trained to see the subtler movements of thought. Therefore we say, thought sometimes prompts action, not realizing that all thought is motion and all motion is thought. One class of thinkers says that breathing exercises are a necessity for a well-balanced mind and body. Another class says that it is only necessary to think and that breathing will come later. Both are right because breathing is thinking and thinking is breathing. A man can no more breathe without thinking than he can think without breathing. The instant the circulation of breath ceases, at that instant there is no movement. The absence of movement is annihilation. An exercise in thinking is an exercise in breathing. An exercise in breathing, or any other kind of exercise, is an exercise in thinking. An exercise well done is one in which all the thought it can contain is put into it. An exercise half done is one that is done unwillingly, unintelligently. The former is right thinking, the latter is half-hearted, sloppy thinking. Somewhere in the animal kingdom we used to know how to breathe. That was before we learned to be afraid of God and the devil, not to speak of ourselves and others. But by thinking in fear, we developed the habit of half-breathing. Half-breathing is a habit of the human race, that is, of the male side. The female side lives on 1/4 breathing, because it has been taught to fear more things than men, and because women are more apt anyway to learn. Women have learned to shrink and to bow. Not content with this, they have bound their feet and hands and chained themselves in straitjackets, the most infernal machine imaginable to squeeze the solar plexus of all semblance to a radiant center and quench the breath of life. All this habit must be overcome in the only way possible, by establishing new habits of breathing, of thinking. Remember, breathing and thinking are one. Therefore I say to you, men and women, but especially women, breathe, and keep breathing until you establish the habit of full and free breathing. You who have been trying to think of yourselves in the free realm and who wonder why you seem to make so little progress, just get to work and breathe for your lives. That will help you like nothing else. It is precisely the kind of thinking we call breathing that frees from fear. The weak, the sick, the timid are the ones who do not breathe. The asthmatic, the constipated, and the nervous need to breathe, and a lot, in order to be cured. And they are the very ones who do not breathe if they can get rid of it. They lock themselves in hot, airless rooms and gasp and gurgle and bemoan their fate, because they have been trying for years, perhaps generations, to survive without breath. This is their habit of thought. Well, there is salvation, a new habit of thought. Practice breathing with half as much diligence as you have practiced not breathing, and you will gain the salvation that is within you. I will tell you how to begin and how to keep at it, and if you practice it faithfully for a month, you will be thoroughly convinced. And if you keep at it until you have made full breathing a habit of thought, you will be a new creature. Sadness and melancholy, fears and struggles will have ceased forever. Energy, ambition, power, joy will have grown in their place. Your shrunken, hunched body will have straightened. You will stand with an extra curve in the lower back, instead of with a curve in the shoulders, as you had when you were a monkey. You will walk with a spring on the ball of your foot, instead of coming down on your heels or shuffling in any way. Your eyes will be bright and steady and ready to look kindly at any other pair of eyes. Your mouth will be straight, instead of having drooping corners as in the old whaling days, and your lips will be soft and sweet to kiss. Your skin will be fresh and clear, and your voice will ring, like bells over still waters, instead of being choked in your throat and tinged with groans or grunts as of old. In short, you will be a new being, born again of the Spirit, and ready to live, love, and do. Exercises. First of all, make sure you have plenty of open windows in your sleeping room, not a slit up and down, but wide open windows. Use a mosquito net to keep out drafts if necessary. When you wake up in the morning, open everything wide. Lie on your back with your arms outstretched, without a pillow and lightly covered, or better yet, with nothing at all. Relax from head to foot. Close your mouth. Breathe slowly and deeply in quietly, filling your lungs as evenly as possible to the bottom. Hold your breath as long as you can without straining, then see how slowly and gently you can exhale the air. Pay special attention to this. See how slowly and steadily you can exhale the breath. Now, catch your breath if necessary, as you surely will if you are not used to taking deep breaths, and do it again. Repeat this 5 to 7 times. Take about 4 seconds to inhale, 8 to hold, and as many as you can to exhale. You may not be able to hold your breath that long at first. Remember not to strain. Smooth, easy, steady. This is the first thing to do. Practice will lengthen the breath. At first, I could not inhale more than 2 seconds, hold 3 and exhale 3 or 4, and my heart would beat as if I had made a tremendous effort. It was 3 months before I could take 5 successive breaths, as I have described to you. At this point, I want to tell you that those 3 months of practice helped me to vocalize. I always had problems with shortness of breath when singing. 4 years of vocal culture did little to help me. The 3 months I first practiced this breathing exercise, I happened to run out of piano and never sang a note. Then they brought one home and I went back to singing. In spite of 3 or 4 months without a note of practice, I sang as I had never sung before. I had never sung with such pleasure. It seemed to me that I could sing any phrase, or 2 or 3, with breath to spare, and with a freedom I had never experienced in my life. Since then, I have never known the old difficulty again. I am convinced that systematic breathing exercises without vocalizing are invaluable to the singer. If you are a man or a woman sensible or slender enough not to wear a corset, repeat this exercise 2 or 3 times a day, always in the same position and with your clothes loosened. And after retiring for the night, repeat it again. Then, order yourself to sleep peacefully. Breathe at full lung and wake up refreshed at the usual time. If, in spite of all the doctors and delsarts in the country, you wear corsets, do the breathing exercises anyway, but do them standing up, outdoors if possible, or at an open window. Get a new, straight-fronted corset, let it out a notch or 2 more than the old one. After putting it on, pull it down in front and stand up so that the bustle is behind, where it should be. Then throw back your shoulders, raise your head, look like a sweet and graceful queen. Turn your eyes toward heaven and all that is good, and breathe. Inhale love, power, brightness, life, slowly, silently. Let it thrill you and permeate every atom of your being and fill your solar plexus with joy. Let it transmute you and transmute you. Then lower your eyes, stretch out your hands in blessing, and exhale silently, gently, slowly, all the joys for all mankind. If you are a man, do not worry about the straight corset. Simply stand like an athlete, chest out and abdomen in, and take long, strong gulps of sunshine. Let them stimulate your whole being, soul and body. Then exhale blessings upon the world. Take 2 or 3 breaths in each exercise. Exercise several times a day, in a standing position if you prefer, and recline at night and in the morning for more breathing. If you have a special goal in which you wish to succeed, remember it when you perform these exercises. As you inhale, you are negative, receptive. As you hold your breath, you are ready. As you exhale, you are positive, radiant. You are giving life to your domain, to all those who are less developed than you, to your environment in general, to your business, to whatever it is that interests you. Then, as you exhale a sigh, reach out your hands and give life to whatever you desire. You can grow friends, beautiful surroundings, money, loving thoughts, wisdom, anything you want through this practice. I don't give 2 cents whether you have faith in it or not. Just do it, and you will find that what I claim is true. The solar plexus is the seat of emotion. By proper exercise of the entire respiratory apparatus, you can gain such control of the solar plexus that anger, resentment, resistance, sadness, discouragement, and fear will be as foreign to you as the awkward movements you used to make when you were learning to walk or eat. All these unpleasant emotions are due to solar plexus cramps. The exercises I have just given you will release the plexus and make you feel good. Continued practice will establish the habit of feeling good, that is, the habit of feeling free. Until you succeed in establishing the habit of feeling good, you will, as you have up to now, have periods of depression. Gradually, these periods will be less profound and will dissipate more easily. When you feel yourself getting depressed, for whatever reason, break the tendency as soon as possible. Here's how to do it. Undress if possible. If not, loosen your clothes. Lie on your back with your arms open and no pillow. Mentally detach yourself from everything. Breathe in slowly through the nostrils a full breath. Hold steady for a second or two. Then sharply force the breath into the upper part of the lungs. Hold it there for a second or two, and then sharply throw the whole breath downward as far as possible, at the same time mentally exclaiming to the solar plexus, "Wake up!" Hold the breath downward for a second or two, then let it flow gradually until the lungs fill evenly again. Hold it for a moment, and then see how slowly and gently you can exhale the breath. Do this no more than 3 times in one exercise, and only when you are depressed. Then get up and move as if you are going somewhere and intend to get there. Be interested in what you have to do. The next time you think about your depression, you will wonder what it is that makes you feel so comfortable and full of peace of mind. I have used this practice, which is a discovery of mine, for years, for every kind of depression from every conceivable cause, and not once has it failed to change my feelings completely. It is guaranteed to heal anyone who practices it willingly. These instructions seem complicated, but after a trial or two and a rereading or two, they will almost make themselves so easy and delightful will they and their effects seem to you. It doesn't matter if your heart beats a little when you first try any breathing exercise. The same would be true after any new and vigorous exercise. Be still and persist. Very soon, your heart will enter into general enjoyment and remain as calm as a summer morning, no matter how vigorously you force the breath up and down. This correctly persistent exercise will benefit or cure functional diseases of the heart, as well as diseases of the lungs and throat. In fact, there is hardly any ailment of the human body that cannot be cured in this way, if the practice is maintained daily, or more often, for a sufficiently long period. Remember that the brightness of your solar center is to your body what the brightness of the old sun is to plant life and the planets. And these exercises establish in your solar center the habit of shining. Chapter 4. Breathing Technique. There are breaths and breaths, and if you are one of those who breathe, you can do thousands of breaths without doing yourself much good, all because you force a poor muscle to do the work of a big muscle. Some of you may not know that you have in your throat the cleanest trapdoor ever seen. You may not know it's there, and you may never have heard its name, but I guarantee you have experienced several unpleasant sensations in your day because you left this little trapdoor open at the wrong time, and you've probably missed out on many pleasant sensations by having closed it at inopportune times. This little trapdoor, which works so smoothly that you hardly realize you have it, has only one purpose in ordinary life: to prevent anything denser than ozone from penetrating the air passage to the lungs. But the epiglottis is a very clever and obedient little servant, and I have known singers who have taught it to flap up and down very fast, thus helping them to produce choppy tones. Then I have met other people who shamefully abuse this delicate little member of the human family, which is made for light and quick movements, and not for long chords. Strangely enough, it is the New Thought people, the disciples of love, who abuse it the most. But it is not their intention, of course. These new thinkers have somehow got hold of the notion that there is great virtue in holding one's breath for a long time. So they fill up with air, and close that poor trap door and hold it down until they turn red, and their hearts beat tempestuously, and then they pitter-pat. Have you recently gone shopping in some department store, and your ears have been assaulted by a frightful nasal wailing as your eyes fell on the caption, "Don't laugh, the pigs are dying," and then you saw the pigs full of air and mumbling. While the pig is full and plugged, the membrane it is made of is stretched to its maximum. Now take it between your two hands and squeeze it tighter and tighter. If there is a weak spot, it will burst, or the plug may fly off. In either case, you'll stretch the skin and it will need more air to swell back up. Now, that's the way the wrong kind of breath-holding acts on the lungs. You stretch all the tissues of the lungs and ablate the epiglottis. Then the natural and untrained tendency of the thoracic and abdominal muscles is to immediately expel the air. All these muscles contract around the lungs, just as the fingers contract around the skin of the pig, and all the lung tissue and the air passage, as well as the little trap door, become severely strained. And this tension interferes with blood circulation, reacting on the heart, and if there is a weak spot in the lungs, hemorrhage occurs. To make matters worse, the lung tissue becomes flaccid and sluggish. In ordinary breathing exercises, the lungs should never be forced to hold the air, not even for an instant. The lungs are a pair of bellows that fill as the muscular walls expand. It is not the forcing of air inward that expands the chest walls. The expansion of the thoracic and abdominal muscles draws air in without creating more pressure inside the body than exists on the outside. This allows free circulation of air and blood and perfect oxygenation. It is not necessary to train the lungs to breathe. They always receive as much air as the muscles allow, and they remain expanded and free as long as the muscles allow. Correct breathing is correct musculation. Breathing practices should be muscle practices, with the trapdoor wide open from beginning to end. When you practice breathing, don't worry about breathing. Just notice how far and evenly you can expand the chest and rectus abdominis muscles outward, how long you can hold them steady there without pressure against the epiglottis, and how slowly, evenly and smoothly you can contract those muscles again. Put your will in your muscles, which is where it should be. Put your attention on them, and you will learn to breathe correctly. Always breathe through your nose. Don't try too hard. If you have to huff and puff after a long breath, you have made the divisions of that breath, inhale, hold, and exhale, too long, and you have closed the trap door. Try it again. Breathe with ease. Breathe with a purpose. Did you know that the difference between a man and an idiot is the difference between a purpose and no purpose? The most manly man, woman included, is the one with the deepest, highest, most steadfast purpose. The idiot breathes in short, irregular puffs, never completely filling or emptying his lungs, and his small, erratic puffs go to build the 1,001 small, erratic notions that make up his expressed self. Aimless breathing practices are, like any other aimless endeavor, beastly. Direct the force generated by the breath in the direction you choose. Aim with it, and make sure you aim high and steady. You can do anything you set your mind to. Only hesitation can defeat you, unless you ignorantly set your mind to something that enslaves the free will of another. For example, a man once wrote to me to completely subdue his wife and make her obedient to him in all things. Now, his wife used to be that kind of a goose, but she had positively outgrown him and left his mightiness. And this man could breathe and speak the word and hire healers till dawn, and that's all the good it would do him. He did not aim high enough. If he had set out to be sweet enough to win a woman's devotion, he might achieve it, though in his case it would take him a few more incarnations. But he could achieve it in time. Or if he had set out to be a successful artist or a writer or a businessman, he could achieve it without fail, if he stuck to it. But he wanted to boss others around, and others were wise enough to boss themselves. I gave him back the money and told him I was glad of his wife's guts. Breathe rhythmically. It is said that a single dog trotting across a bridge will do more to bring it down than whole herds of draft horses and heavy loads. The dog's movement has no rhythm. It is said that a man with a violin could knock down a Brooklyn bridge if he maintained a steady vibration of the note on which the bridge is tuned. A rhythmic heart creates a powerful body. Rhythmic breathing communicates rhythm to the heart and brain and makes the whole man fun. Breathing regularly and deeply brings the whole body and brain and soul and spirit into harmony of action. Harmony is health. Harmony is power. Have you ever seen 4 men or women take 3 or 4 long, even breaths in unison, and on the last inhalation lift a heavy man over their heads with the tips of their fingers? Without such long, even breaths, such a feat cannot be accomplished. Rhythmic breathing generates energy in the body. During sleep, breathing is even and deep, and the body recovers. Recovers from what? From the irregularity of action caused by wakefulness, the superficial brain. The respiratory apparatus responds to every conscious thought. It gasps with astonishment, stands still with fear, or snorts with excitement. In the long, quiet night, it recovers its natural rhythmic action. Our respiratory apparatus is like the inexperienced fingers of a child, full of infinite capacity to express beauty, harmony, and power. But, like the child's fingers, our respiratory apparatus needs training to work steadily and intelligently, even if the brain becomes capricious or lazy. Just as each of the child's fingers has to learn to do its own work without responding to impulses sent to its fellows, so the respiratory apparatus has to be taught to keep working coolly and evenly, regardless of what happens in the brain or outside the body. This can be achieved by persistent practice. The rhythmic action of the respiratory machinery will keep the body full of power and prepare a heart for any destiny. He who teaches his body to keep fresh, sweet, and harmoniously functioning no matter what arises will cease to gasp and gurgle, faint and collapse at the times when he needs power most. When you're tired or down, your body is starving for a short, irregular supply of breath. Lie flat, with your arms away from your body and your eyes closed. Inhale slowly, but not too slowly, just easily. As you inhale, say mentally, with eyes raised under closed eyelids, I am. Say it slowly and distinctly, and try silently to realize that the infinite is really you. I and the Father are one. Keep the chest walls expanded for a moment and the throat open. Then exhale the breath slowly and very gently, lowering the eyes as you do so, under closed eyelids always, saying softly, slowly, mentally, with downward inflection, love. I am love. Breathe rhythmically, as slowly as you can breathe easily, and always fully. Keep this up until your mind is quiet, and you have forgotten all about being discouraged or sad. Keep this up until the I am consciousness has gone with the breath to the lungs, and so to the blood, and with it to the whole body. It takes about 2 minutes for the blood to make the circuit of the body, but to change your feelings, it must make the circuit several times, establishing a new rhythmic vibration of I am love consciousness. Your whole being must pick up the vibrations of that great, peaceful, powerful I am consciousness. The lungs, the heart, the solar center, and the brain must pulse together with the infinite. This is the best concentration exercise I know of, the only sure means I know of to become conscious of the power flowing outward from the I am world into the I do world. It is the only infallible remedy I know of for discouragement, restlessness, lack of interest, impatience, anger, malice, revenge, resentment, and the habit of clinging. And I believe it is literally foolproof for any human being who really wants to be cured of any of these negativities. Repeat the dose every time you feel negative. At first, it may take 10 minutes or more to release you, but after a while, 5 minutes will be enough. If you nip each little spell in the bud, you will soon stop feeling distinctly negative. Breathe in the infinite I am. Let it renew you, mind and body. Breathe out love, wealth, whatever you desire. Remember, you don't take the things you desire, they come through you. Breathe in I am love God. Never care what the problem is. Just nip it in the bud with practice. Get on with it. There is simply no end to the good you will get from it. You will practice it until you get your consciousness right with the real pulses of your being, the I am vibrations. To the extent that you live in that consciousness, you will gain health, happiness, and success. Whatever breathing practices you use or don't use, remember to straighten up and take a few slow, full breaths whenever you think about it, no matter where you are or what you are doing. There is life and joy in it.